If you have been studying value, you may be familiar with the Lambert emission law, a misconception that beginners make, and well, sometimes myself too, not gonna lie, is that when an object darkens, is it linear or gradual the way it darkens itself? However, in the Lambert emission law, it is actually stated that this is how really the light works in nature. As we can see, it is gradually changing just a little bit in the light, but when it turns in the halftones, it is dramatically changing, turning into the shadows. This allows us to have a 1, 2, 3 red. Something to mention and to note is that remember that the halftones is part of the light family. When you are going to paint your halftones, make sure to not make them as hard as your shadows. This will lead to light and muddy shadows, and the same thing applies the other way around. It can also happen that if you have your light and halftones too close together, this will create dirty lights. I am ashamed of showing this, but look how in the past my drawings used to have this problem, and that happens because we are not leaving a gap in between values. So we know the light and halftones are from the light family, but we still need to leave a small gap so the reliability of our values are shown are cohesive. And in shadows, we need to leave a bigger gap so we know that in fact these are the shadows and these are the halftones. So because this video is about halftones, I am excluding the shadows terms and also the highlight from the equation, because I believe both of them needs a proper video for having a better explanation. But for the sake of having a better understanding of the technique and also the tips that I want to teach you today, we are going to present the halftones together with the center light. And if you don't know what is center light, you can think of it as it is the area of the strongest light in the drawing. Let's not forget, the halftone is also the light, but it can't compete with the strongest light that in this case it will be the center light. So if you were like me at the beginning, when I saw this, I was getting crazy because I was obsessed with showing every subtle change. All the information in the center light, you can actually compress it into only one value. The change is that subtle that we can allow ourselves to do that. In the halftones, this change starts to speed up, but I am going to paint only one halftone value, and the darkened one, I am going to reveal it. I will show you what I mean with this. So the base color of our circle will be a mid-tone. Something to note is that while we are painting, I like to think of values as a budget. So by starting at the middle point, we allow ourselves to have a margin of error between if we are making our lights too soft, our shadows lacking contrast. Basically, the mistakes that I explained in the beginning of the video. I start by painting the center light, and by making a subtle transition just in here, we should be having a small value shift, because in real life, there are hundreds of values. However, we are painters, so I am going to simply paint it as one big value mass, just like in the Lambert emission law. The middle point, I am leaving it like that for showing the halftone. Now, by going in the shadows, I am thinking of my shadow budget. I am not putting too much pressure in my strokes. I am reserving my darkest shadows for the bottom area. Now, in the middle point, just in between the shadows turning into the halftones, we are going to reveal our darkest halftone. Here I readjusted my light with a stronger center light because I had budget for it, for having a clearer 1, 2, 3 red. And with this we assure ourselves that we have a way more cohesive value range. Our values are being way more controlled. We are not trying to replicate a camera, we are not trying to paint everything that we are seeing. We are only trying to be aware that this exists, that it is there. Now, as artists, it's important how light and shadows behaves in primitive shapes. Because I am dumb and since I was a child, I didn't even know how to fit a cube in that game that everyone of us used to play. I remember this the following. So the shapes that are rounded and cute, they will have gradation. And the shapes that are more pointy or more dramatical, they will have no gradation at all, or no gradations. Believe it or not, we can actually make great paintings with halftones and lights and center light alone. And this is why I believe it's one of the most important aspects in the form principle to dominate the values. So we right now can't really see it, but if we create a new layer, we paint it in black and then put it in the color overlay,
we will be able to see in grayscale. And as you can see, almost all of the colors in these paintings are in the grays. Only in the shadows, it's a little bit in here. There's a little bit of shadows in the neck, in the cheeks, but it's really that subtle. And then a little bit more of shadows in the eyes for making contrast in the drawing and also for showing the cavity of the eye. How this painting can look good only with halftones alone, and that is because halftones are really that powerful. There's a really subtle change in the transition of the drawings, in the transition of the face. This is why everything looks really soft. And here's a pro tip, guys. People, when they are drawing cute anime girls or cute girls, they only use small transitions in the face area. They make really small shifts. Basically, where there is center light, I am trying to show just in the side or below or above the halftone, because as you remember, center light and halftones are for the light family. Make sure to not treat them separated. So this will be the breakdown. You get prepared for getting scared. Jesus Christ. But as you can see, I am not really that good of an illustrator. Also in my planning, I need to get more work done. But the form overall of the face, the form of the eyes, also the resemblance of the hair, all of that was think before laying out all of the blocking of the values or the colors. So I want you to make this. Just before making the painting, you already have everything established in the sketch. Anyways, I am going actually to show this in grayscale so you don't get confused. This is the mid value, just in here. Basically, one value for the shadows and one value for the lights. In this case will be the halftones and the shadows. And then after that, I add the center light, that is a small value shift just in here in the forehead area. As we continue, I emphasize the cavity of the eyes. Then I start to clean up details, and also here I change it to the more cute look. Here I was still trying to make her look mad at me, but you can see it wasn't working out. And this painting is trust the process moment, epic moment, and then I started this small shadow shift just in here. Then I continue to add the highlights in the hair and also more details in the background for having more emphasis in the head, in the face I mean. And basically just like that. From here it's just cleaning up details, but the foundation is already here. Here's the halftones in the cheeks, a little bit of center light just in here in the cheeks, in the eyes, in the hair. And then after that, I add the highlights. And from here, I simply start trying to control my values in the meaning of that if I want to make the emphasis on my head or the face, I can't make the hair as brighter as the face, or I can't make my shadows be lighter than my halftones. And you don't need to nail it in the first time. You can make mistakes. I am never doing things first try. I am always correcting as I am progressing in the painting. Just in the back of the hair, as it is turning from off the light, I was thinking that the light was coming from up here, but in the front. And this is why I am adding a little bit of shadows here. And then basically just cleaning up details, making my highlights stronger, my center light stronger, making a better 1, 2, 3 value red. And just like that, this is how the painting will look. But now the question is how I need to control my edge of the shadows, how I know how dark I should be making my shadows in contrast of the lighted colors, why there are some parts in the shadows that are a little bit brighter than the shadows itself. Well, all of this I am going to explain it in the shadows video, so make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much guys for watching, I love you so much. I hope this video convinced you into subscribing. I am going to put more effort and information in the shadows video. This is only for showing you that halftones are more than powerful enough to show a really good rendering, despite that there's no shadows at all. See you next time.